But I did have one experience where I was in this relationship, and it was an abusive relationship.
Did the
And
pastor tell you to still get married?
no, we were already married, but I wanted to leave.
What did the pastor say?
Um, my first lady at the time, she told me I needed to pray.
Look, you gotta speak up because we want to hear you.
Pray.
Yeah.
Pray about the beating.
But I'm like, okay.
Look, I thought you was gonna say she said you need, talk to the pastor and let's get the pastor in and see what the pastor thinks.
No, I needed to pray about it. I need to lift him up in prayer because the wife covers the husband.
Yeah.
The wife sanctifies the husband.
Okay, now let me ask you. I'm not about to joke. Was the pastor's wife, the first lady, were they like, how much older were they than us? 10, 15 years?
Yeah, they were probably about maybe 10 years or so.
10 years? That's kind of still in our gap. So that's surprise. But you know what? You're right. You're right. A lot of that.
They will tell you, that the Bible doesn't support that God does not support
divorce. Yep.
And then even after you divorce, technically you can't get married again because of some other stuff. And I'm just like, I never really went into depth about it.
How did that make, like, mentally, were you kind of like, well...
I felt trapped. Because ultimately my goal, I just wanted to make sure I didn't grieve the Holy Spirit. I want to go to heaven. I didn't want to go to hell, but I can't live in Vegas. I know I don't. So it's like, okay, you want to do everything that is right. And I will say, honestly speaking, I do feel like my religion kept me in bondage for so long in this particular situation because I kept on praying and praying and praying and praying and praying. God, please change him, Lord. Please change him. I love my husband, da da da. But at the end of the day, he's kicking my tail every time, he feel like I said something wrong. And then, you're being taught, well, you have to be submissive. Well, being submissive and being a doormat is two different things.
Okay.
A lot of men want to, they want you to follow them. They want to lead, but they don't know where they're going. So what? I'm going to follow you. You lost too.
Okay, so stop it right there. Let me ask you then. I'm going to ask both of y'all. We church kids. Yeah. Do you feel like the black church doesn't do a better job of mentoring us as black men? I got my own perspective, but do you feel like they do a good job? Come on, Mariah. Do they do a good job of mentoring black men?
In that respect, if you look at the congregations, though, most of the congregations are made up of women.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? So if the man is not there and does not choose to come, then he can't get the help that's needed. Like I said, our congregations are 80%, maybe 90 to 95%, all women.
Single women with children.
Exactly.
And it's only a few deacons in the church. So
and they old.
What are your options in there?
Yeah,
unless you go to the guest churches and scope them out.
Well, look. You already know what I'm gonna say, Mariah. You already know what I'm saying. Well, y'all can always just fuck the pastor, and then, and y'all, you know what I'm saying? Like, just and look, let me tell you something. I always had a plan. Y'all want to hear my plan to come up?
Yes.
I send one of you beautiful ladies to seduce the pastor, and then we Kevin Hart that nigga and be like, look, nigga, now she's gonna need $1,500 a month. And on top of that $1,500 a month, nigga, I'm gonna need $500 on top of that, nigga, or this tape is going to your congregation, nigga.
You know what?
I'm just saying.
This is getting ready to open up another can of because and only because I'm just now recently going through a healing process because my trust in men of the cloth was non-existent for a minute only because I was molested by an elder in our church.
See?
And I never ever told my dad. Now my dad has passed away.
R.I.P. man.
And I only maybe 3 weeks ago I attempted to confront him via Facebook. I found him on Facebook. I friended him. I finally accepted his then wife's friend request.
Okay.
And then for like the last maybe 7 months or something, it seemed like his kids were trying to get in contact with me. And, you know, I used to be best friends with his daughter.
Okay.
Back in the day. And, oh, God, it feels so good to talk about this. I feel free now. That
Hey, speak about it. We keep it a buck.
But it was so crazy because I'm like, why are they trying to friend me? Like, when I was hanging out with their sister, they were too young to even realize or remember
what was going on. Okay.
And so I finally got up enough courage, like I said, to friend him. He answered my friend request. Then he sent me a message in Messenger saying, "Hey, how are you?" And when I got the message, like, I was shook. Like,
okay,
here's my chance. But I was so shook, I didn't know what to say. And so I'm like, okay. The next day, he sent me some question marks. I guess I took too long to answer. By the time I got to that, he had unfriended me or blocked me or whatever. So I couldn't do it. So I'm like, oh wow, like I lost my chance. I was just devastated. So I went ahead and I sent a message to his daughter. I sent it to the wife. I'm like, look, I need to be free. I said, I've been holding this with me for over 30 years. I need to say something. Mind you, like I said, I never told my dad because before my dad was a preacher, my dad was bowing.
Yeah, so it would have been some it would have been some sad singing and flower bringing.
Exactly. But then most of all, I'm a daddy's girl, hardcore. I would have lost my dad, and he would have gone to prison for sure because I know how hard my dad provided his kids. And so I told the then wife, you know, I don't know if you remember the day when I was at you guys' house and, you know, my best friend then, she had gone to school that particular day. She had a half a day, but I didn't have school. Oh. And I said, you know, you left me there and he molested me. And I never will forget, Price is Right was on the TV. You know, that was early in the morning.
Yes.
And he did it in front of his kids whose baby beds were inside of there. They're like maybe they're old, maybe 3-4 years old. They're in like beds.
And he was a preacher then?
He was an elder at my church. He was an elder at my church, and come to find out now he's in Texas somewhere. So yeah, Solomon Stewart, I'm coming for you, bro.
Hey.
I'm coming for you. Because I need to free myself. I've been holding that secret for 30 years, and that made me like not trust men in the pulpit.
I don't blame you.
You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at them like wondering, like, okay, what kind of pedophile are you? Like,
what made me not trust was seeing them at the mortuaries. Oh, no. I call them the men of the napkin. Because they wasn't of the cloth, they was of the napkin. And you would see them all sitting out smoking cigarettes or cigars, and they waiting to see who is the prettiest girl from the funeral. They fighting over who gonna work this service, if this girl was a stripper.
Oh man.
No, oh yeah. They get a kickback. So the pastor bring their people to the mortuary. They get that $150 kickback, and then they charge the family another honorarium $150. So they just spend money for nothing, doing nothing but sitting there saying, "Oh, that's my people. Come over here to this one. I got you. Come to my church. I got you." So I
didn't know that.
I didn't trust a lot of those men because I see how they look at other women and other men. Don't forget that.
Oh, not the.
Yes.
Oh man.
Yes, I see it.
Damn. We both said, "Damn." Do y'all feel like, Mariah already know this, but do y'all feel like in church it's more of I would say it's a script that's being ran. It's kind of like a script.
It's a program.
And it's like a program. And do you feel like they're held to royalty when it comes to their communication with a higher being, but they're not held accountable when it comes to things like what take place with you? And why is there no accountability in the church? Like, I'm talking about the black church. I can't speak on everybody else, but in our churches, there's no accountability. Like what y'all were speaking on before, that's real. What Mariah's talking about, okay, you're asking all this of me, right? All of my time, devote all my time and do all this other stuff, but I still have bills to pay too.
Right.
And I can't tell the power company, I can't do, I can't do that. And it's like, you're almost kind of like running the program in your mind where it's like, okay, they're being held to a certain standard. Do you feel like we treat pastors in the black church like they are perfect and like they don't make mistakes and they don't make the right decisions?
Because that's your leader, and you're supposed to hold the leader to this up here.
Okay.
They can't do no wrong. You see how they carry out the leader's water? It's wrapped with plastic on top. You got ice cubes in there. You might have an orange juice on the side.
No, it's gold rims.
Yeah, they have the good stuff, girl.
And that's at a lot of black churches I've been to that they do that for the pastor.
Pastor, he gets his.
I gotta get mine. I need all mine.
Yes. But what you're saying is so true, because even that same elder, he molested another girl at the church.
No, that's not funny.
And she came out, and everybody shunned her. They didn't believe her. And they tried to call her, back in the day, oh, she's being fast.
Being fast.
Kind of stuff. But yeah, they did not believe her. And that's another reason why I didn't come out too. And do you know that 2004, when I was finally allowed or able to be on Facebook, because in my situation, it was the devil. But I actually had to apologize to her because I didn't come out. And
wow.
And she was my support system when I went through it, when I, approached everyone this time.
You know what's so funny what y'all saying? It was this thing on Twitter, and then I ended up going to YouTube to watch it. It was this young girl. It was a white church. And this white girl basically ambushed the pastor in front of his whole congregation.
That's how I wanted to do it.
And she was just like, why don't you just tell everybody how you was having sex with me and I was 14?
They need to hear it.
And
that's her testimony.
Yeah, and then she was like, and you're the wife and you knew that was going on too. So why don't y'all tell everybody? So people in the audience was like, tell us, Pastor.
Yes.
Tell us. And then I had to get this white girl props. Then she even said, well, y'all should all be ashamed of yourself. Y'all should all leave because what do I need to lie about? I've been carrying this just like you, because she's our age. So this happened years ago. So she's like, I've been carrying this my whole life. She had her, I think it was her man or one of her family members as a support system. And then certain people were leaving because they was like, basically, that's bullshit. Like, what are you doing? Something's not right. If a girl go ambush you in front of the whole church.
Man.
It was her time. Everybody got a story to tell and a time to tell it, right?
Yeah. And do y'all feel like, okay, as we hold them to this higher standard as far as spiritually, do you feel like we're devaluing who we are spiritually sometimes? Because sometimes you have good pastors, I would say, that's going to give you game. Like, I feel like a pastor's wife, to me, you come with that, what's going on with your man, she's supposed to direct that to her husband. And he's supposed to sit down with both of y'all and say, look, y'all black, y'all can't be doing that. And then he's supposed to counsel him on the side. Look, brother, that's not a good look.
Right.
Do you see what I'm saying?
Keep in mind, there are also those women that know. Because when you're connected to somebody, when you're married to somebody, you feel, what's going on with your spouse. You know it's something not right about him. You know what I mean? Before talking to the wife, I really felt like she knew. I felt like she left me there on purpose for him because I do. Deep down in my heart, I feel like she knew what was going on.
And that's another thing too. I feel like y'all give me y'all perspective. I feel like we're not guardians of the youth, like especially our generation. It was just a lot of like, oh, just leave them to their devices. Not everybody, you know what I mean? Not everybody, but I'm just saying a lot of times at church that would take place where you just, and I experienced that because there was me, you got Mariah, I got my sisters, but as Mariah, my sisters, my brother, they get older, sometimes there are going to be kids that are there by themselves, left to their own devices. If you're not constantly having stimulation, mental stimulation, hey, you need to read this book. Like, I do agree with what Mariah's saying. You can't just have it predicated on the Bible and on the church. You have to do those things like, oh, you got a recital, y'all singing in the choir. I don't care what song it is. I don't care if you're singing the Sugar Free song. It don't matter. I'm going to go support it because you're a part of my congregation and I'm going to show you have support. I feel like that's where they lacked. Her just leaving him there with you and doing all that. No, you go. I'm going to stay here.
And she should have took you. If her kids were gone, she should have took you with her.
No, she asked me to keep an eye on her kids, but why? The dad
is there.
Yeah, exactly.
What made me
exactly. She should have removed you because a lot of the times, to me, y'all tell me what y'all think. This is the United States of America. This isn't overseas. Now, overseas in third world countries at 13, they knocking them down. Exactly. But we're not overseas.
No, we're not.
So since we're not overseas.
I had to be between 10 and 12.
Exactly. But we're not overseas.
Exactly.
So since we're not overseas, we got to do a better job of protecting the youth. The little boys, hey, you're going to be with the men, but then it's going to be within reason. It's going to be a group of men. So those men could check each other. Like the Nation of Islam. Yeah. In the nation, if you go to Nation of Islam, they don't play that bullshit over there at all. It ain't finna just be one little boy with a grown man. No, you're going to be around a group of men and they ain't playing the bullshit. Look at the women in the Nation of Islam. We may not agree with maybe the way they dress and all that, but it's going to be accountability there. And I felt like with your situation, it should have been more accountability. Absolutely. You don't leave no younger girl with a grown man or a boy. That's still a kid, and that's not his kid, even if it is his kid. Sometimes you're supposed to be the protector because you would want somebody to protect your kids. So that's you dead on that. That's wrong. What do y'all think about them not protecting the youth? Because I know in our generation they didn't. They definitely didn't. There's a lot of kids. Man, look, there's a lot of kids just hanging around the church all day with nothing to do.
Well, that just points to my response earlier when I said, when the other young lady, like the church, they shunned her. You know what I mean? And when she needed to be protected, she needed her story to be believed because, according to the wife's response 3 weeks ago, and in a way, I kind of feel like she was trying to not really make it go away by making me feel, I don't know. She was like, well, you're not the only one, and he did it to a bunch of other people, so that's supposed to make me feel better.
So the pastor's wife said that?
That he was an elder. He was an elder.
Oh, so yeah, so she said that.
Yeah, she said that. I could show you my messages. She said he even did it to my then best friend, his own daughter. So my thing
he shouldn't be no preacher then.
Exactly. Right. Well, apparently he is still a preacher somewhere in Texas.
I just feel like, let me ask y'all a question. Okay.
Wife number 11.
And that's another thing. Do y'all agree with as long as you married then everything should be okay? Because do y'all feel like that's the message the black church sends to us and they convey that to us?
Yeah, they say that the bedroom is undefiled or something like that.
I just know the way I've been raised. Mariah could piggyback off this, and I want you to, Mariah. Like, they socialized us, in black church, like, if you're not married, nothing good is going to come to you.
Mm-hmm. You can't move up the ranks.
You can't move up the ranks. You can't do this. God ain't going to bless you. And that plays a number on your head.
You will go to hell.
Yeah.
For having premarital sex.
Exactly. What do y'all feel? Mariah, both of y'all, tell me, what do y'all feel about it? You think that's misinformation?
Definitely.
Why?
Because you need to experience. You haven't lived long enough to experience certain things and know what you like and what you don't like. Just like even going through the church, like growing up in a church, doing all those things that the church make you do. And then when you start to get a little knowledge and you learn about spirituality and you learn about different things like that, people don't like you to learn about those kind of things. They don't want you to get that kind of knowledge because now you're seeing the world like a whole different way. Like, man, I've been fooled and bamboozled this whole time.
And do you feel like you talk about power, which is, you notice I ain't disagree with nothing y'all said. Y'all on point. Do you feel like there's a sense of power with the black church when they can kind of like, they come off and convey it as I'm guiding you, but really low key I'm kind of controlling what you got going on?
Oh, absolutely.
Because in other religions it's kind of like that too, but definitely in our religion.
In that respect, I think it depends upon the character of the head of the church.
Right.
How they handle things, because you have some people that abuse their power, and then you have some people that will actually try to guide you. And I've dealt with both, both spectrums. So I'm just like, it depends upon the character of the person that's in charge.
Do you think that growing up in black church the way we did, I'm not even gonna say Mariah done listened to me vent on my podcast every, I go in every chance I get. I make a lot of black Christians mad. Oh, they be mad at me. Do you feel like did Jesus come back? But anyway, my man, do you feel like growing up as us, black Christianity, did it prepare us for the system of racism, white supremacy? Did it prepare us for life?
No, this is the thing for me, because I never will forget when I was a young girl, and they in a sense they try to scare you from what I believe with the Book of Revelation. So one day I went to the Book of Revelation, and I saw that Jesus supposedly, he has skin of bronze, hair of wool. Right?
Yeah, nappy like mine.
Right, but then I turn around and I look at the picture of Jesus.
Look like
a white man.
Look like Pau Gasol, huh?
With silky hair, and I'm like,
in every church,
right? But then I wasn't allowed to question that because the Bible says you're not supposed to question anything. So for years and years and years, I'm like, how? Like every time I look at, they had the little picture of white Jesus in a robe and all the little white kids all around.
Where the black kids at?
In the background, they got the rivers at the river
Last
of life.
Supper picture.
Right, and I'm just like, skin of bronze though. I'm still on the skin of bronze and the hair of wool, and in that dreadlocks, like.
Exactly. You know what I thought? This was what I thought was kind of crazy when they was in the Bible. And it was talking about how, Moses and them was in Egypt land. And I'm like, okay, Egypt, that's Africa. 190 degrees. Sunblock for the dominant society. How was y'all even surviving out there back then? And back then, you didn't have the technology you have now. So that's one. And then two, I'm like, that something's not making sense because, a lot of Sunday school books and Bibles and any church you go to, like you said, they look like Pau Gasol or Kurt Rambis from the Lakers. You know what I mean? I'm just keeping it a buck. And then when you question, God has no color. You get that too. He's the Almighty.
You were thinking too deep.
Now it comes to, like Mariah said, you're thinking too deep. Now, you know how most people are. They think I think they think a lot of black folk are just being oppositional just because it's of the strength. But you have to understand, when you start to gain knowledge, it changes your perspective of the church. Like Mariah said something real poignant. Both of y'all did, how she was like, there's a lot asked of us, when you go to a church and all this other stuff. And it is. But when you want the reciprocation, you want it to be reciprocal. Like, hey, man, I want to be supported with X, Y, and Z, or I want to be a R&B artist, or I want to be a rapper, hip hop rapper. Now it's you're going to hell. And you can't serve two masters and all this other stuff. My question is, I'm going to ask y'all, how many pastors, if they told you can't do that, right? And then let's just say you blow up and now you the hottest shit out. Do you think they would turn down those ties? I'm just asking you guys. I just thought, I'm asking you that, Cuzzo. I'm saying, if a pastor tells me, oh, I'm going to go to hell and I forbid you to do that, and then I blow up, like I'm balling, I blow up, do you think they would turn down those
Of
ties?
course not.
Why?
Why? That's what they've been praying for. You done came and gave them everything that they wanted. You done answered all the prayers, right?
Okay.
So of course they're gonna keep that money. Your money don't have a face to it. It's green. That's what they was wanting.
And do you think that a lot of churches, when we grew up, they just didn't have the knowledge about racism, white supremacy, or they just didn't want to talk about it? Because a lot of people don't know. Y'all mentioned something that the average person don't know, and that's the 501c3, courtesy of John D. Rockefeller. People don't know that. And you, in that 501c3, it states you cannot talk about like race. You cannot talk about political views. That's why a lot of pastors don't talk about the political views.
And some of them still do.
And some of them still do.
They push people that they want you to pick.
They push people they want you to pick.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like...
And vaccines.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like they did us a disservice by not warning us about this system? Because I'm not going to lie. I didn't get game about the system of racism, white supremacy until I came to Vegas, like you, like Mariah, and had to deal with this good old boy system. That's when I started to like, oh, this is what this is. You see what I'm saying?
So I personally think that in a lot of instances, they capitalize off of our ignorance. Because we're not aware, like we're thinking it's just this church, we're going here, to get help for our souls, when at the end of the day, it's a business. It's an organization.
Mm-hmm. They're exempt.
Everybody has to do their part within the family to bring in the money. All concerts, then it's
musicals,
barbecue
sales, bake sales, all kind of stuff. You know what I mean? And it's so crazy that it took for me to get older to realize, like, man, when I look back, like, wow. I'm getting twisted. I love my childhood church. You know what I mean? I got a lot of love for a lot of people, and I learned a lot. But at the end of the day, I believe that had I known, actually, this is a business. At the end of the day, y'all need, y'all gotta file taxes. You know what I mean? Just like
everybody else.
And it's a lot. Yes, and it's a lot
of tax breaks,
perks to having a 501c3, and so and grants, because I'm also a grant writer as well.
Mm-hmm.
So you have all these different ways to obtain money while you working all these hardworking people for this money. Now, I'm not going against the church. Do what you do. But I'm saying you have mothers in the church that they're on a fixed income.
Facts.
And before they pay for their medication or for some groceries, they're going to give you that 10% off top. You know what I mean? When that 10% could actually make a difference in them having food for the week.
Well done, thy good and faithful servant.
What do you want the Lord to say?
It is a little bit crazy, but at the end of the day, it's like, for myself, I did research. I've done a lot of research, so I choose to, follow Jesus Christ.
Yeah. But at your core, though. Yeah.
Even though I know there were other crucified saviors, and I know that there are missing books from the Bible and all this stuff, which they don't teach us in church.
No. Like William Shakespeare wrote some of the Bible. The Council of Nicaea, they had their hands involved in it. And then they took that Jesus story, because how could Jesus be 2,000 years old when the letter J is only 900 years old? And then the Metu Neter, and when you start reading that stuff, you're right. But you know what? I still give you props. I still give Mariah props. I still give my family props. We just know how to do it respectfully. We're not going into, there's niggas that go into churches looking for a verbal battle with a pastor. Yeah. Like, I'm not doing none of that. You know what I mean?
People do with the Jehovah's Witnesses. Like, they
let them come in and then
ambush them.
And then ambush them. And I'm glad that, us, we don't do that. I just feel like they could have done a better job preparing us, because this system of racism, white supremacy is a cold system. You just told us that a lady said, basically, you ain't like the rest of them niggas. You a good nigga.
Exactly.
And it's like, how do you deal with that if you've been raised a certain way? You know what I'm saying?